Hi, today's topic is the psychology behind why people ignoring you. Are you ever felt completely confused because someone suddenly changed their behavior towards you? One day, everything feels normal. They reply quickly, they'll laugh with you, they make time for you, they remember small details about you, and then suddenly something changes. Their reply becomes shorter, your energy feels colder, the conversations feel dry, and without even realizing it, you start thinking about them more than even before. You check your phone repeatedly, you reread old conversations, you wonder, don't I do something wrong? They losing interest. Why are they acting different now? And slowly, your mind becomes trapped inside overthinking. But psychology says something very interesting about this. Being ignored does not only affect emotions, it affects the brain itself. In fact, studies show that emotional rejection activates similar brain areas connecting the psychological physical pain here. That is why being ignored can feel emotionally exhausting because humans are naturally designed for connections. We want attention, we want resources, we want emotional safety. And why someone suddenly pulls away, the brain reacts like something important is being lost. That is why silence can feel louder than words, especially when the connections once felt close. Now imagine this example. A boy and girl talk every single day. At first, everything feels exciting. They text you hard, they stay awake late talking, they constantly check in notifications. Both people put in efforts. Both people feel emotionally connected. But after some time, one person becomes completely sure the other person will always stay, and slowly the efforts decreases, the reply becomes slower, the excitement fades, the emotional energy changes, not always because feeling despair, but because certainly changing behavior psychological. Human psychology is strange. People often value things more when centrally existing. This is why mysterious create attractions, and that is why constant availability sometimes reduce emotional intensity. Think about social media. When people are received too many notifications, each notification feels like emotionally important. Attention works exactly the same way. When you are always available, always reply instantly, always fixing every problem, some people slowly stop appreciating your presence, not because you're weak, not because you're unimportant, but because your attention became practicable. And practicable things often lose emotional effect over time. This is why emotionally strong people understand the power of silence. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates attention. Suddenly, the person how you know you start wondering why your energy change, why you become quiet. With stopping reacting emotionally and psychologically. Human notice absence more stronger after losing consent access to someone. But here is another important truth. Not every distant person is manipulative. Sometimes people emotionally shut down because life becomes overwhelming, stress, anxiety, mental exhaustion, personal problems. These things can make someone emotionally unavailable. Some people isolate themselves when they are mentally exhausted. Others avoid emotional conversation because they never learned how to express emotion properly. Now imagine another example for you. A friend suddenly stopped replying. At first, you assume they no longer care, but later You discover why we are struggling mentally. They were emotionally exhausting, they were dealing with anxiety silently, and instead of asking for help, they isolate themselves emotionally. This is why emotional intelligence matters so much because not every situation has the same explanation. Sometimes distance is manipulation, sometimes distance is emotional pain, and sometimes people are simply confused themselves. Human emotionally are really an example. Another psychological truth is this: people often ignore what feels too available. For example, imagine someone constantly texting another person every few minutes. At first, the attention feels good, but slowly it becomes expected, radically emotionally normal. And once something becomes emotionally normal, the brain reacts less strongly. This does not mean being kind wrong, it simply means emotional balance matter. Healthy relationships require mutual efforts. No one person constantly chasing while the other become emotional passive, and this is where many people lost themselves emotionally. They've been overgrieving, overtaxing, over-explaining, overthinking, try harder to fix emotional distance, but psychologists show the desperation for create the opposite effect. Why? Because emotionally depression single fear and fear change relationship dynamics. The other person being feels emotional pressure. The pressure then create more distance. This is why the claim energy feels and practice psychological. Claimless single confidence. Confidence single emotional stability, and emotional stability people do not beg for attention. They understand their worth even when the offer behave inconsiderately. Now let's talk about silence. Yeah. Silence is one of the most understood psychological behavior. Most people think silence means weakness, but emotionally intelligent people know silence can communicate more than words. Silence creates reflection, silence creates mystery, silence creates emotional space, and many times people are realize value after feeling absence. Imagine another example. A girl continuously messages someone every single day. Good morning text, good night text, continuous replies, continuous attention, and eventually the attention becomes emotionally expected. But one day, she suddenly stops chasing. She becomes calmer, more emotionally balanced and strong. The other person notices the silence immediately. Why? Because the emotional patterns change, and psychology, the brain reacts strongly to emotional change. But this does not mean you should ignore people, manipulate them. Real emotional maturity is not about games, it's about balance, it is about respecting your emotional energies and understand when the output is not longer mutual. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that they force emotional closeness. But eventually, genuinely, connection cannot be forced. Real interest naturally create efforts. When someone truly value you, their behavior usually reflects it consistency. No perfectly, no constantly, and consistency matters more than temporary ones. Now let's discuss overthinking. Overthinking often begins when the communications become unclear. The human brain hears uncertainty. When answers are missing, the brain starts creating stories. What if they found someone better? What if they secretly dislike me? What if I ruins everything? Slowly, anxiety takes control. This is why emotionally strong people focus more on behavior and assumptions. Because assumption emotionally shows behavior real truth. If someone repeatedly makes you feel confused, ignored, emotionally unimportant, the pattern matters. Never ignore repeated behaviors because patterns reveals emotional reality. Another powerful psychological truth is this: people often become emotionally attached to emotionally unavailable individuals. Why? Because uncertainty, emotional absence, the brain become addicted to impractical rewards. This is similar to gambling psychology. When rewards are consistently, the brain becomes even more emotionally attached. That is why emotionally distanced people sometimes appear more attractive psychologically. Not because they are better, but because unpractical creates emotional intensity. So great. And many people confused emotionally intensely with genuine love. But real emotional security feels calm, stable, safe, not constantly confusing. Healthy relationships not force you to bigger basic intentions. They do not leave you in constant viewers, and they do not make you feel emotionally invisible. Now imagine this example: a person spends months chasing someone emotionally unavailable. Every small reply gives them hope. Every cold response creates anxiety, and slowly their self-worth become connected to receive attention from the one person. This is emotionally dangerous because your value should never depend on the temporary validation from others. Real confidence begins when you emotionally check for unconscious validation seeking. Confident people understand something important. People change, feeling change, connection change, and now every distance is an emotional panic. Sometimes people leave, sometimes energy changes naturally, and sometimes walking away peacefully is healthier than forcing someone connections. One of the strongest psychological skills a person can develop is emotional self-control, the ability to claim. Hell, even when emotions become intense, the ability to observe behavior about the immediately reacting emotionally, because emotional reaction often create regret, while emotional awareness creates clarity. This is why emotional intelligence people pause before reacting. They observe pattern carefully. One bad day means nothing. One late reply means nothing. But repeatedly emotional distance, repeatedly inconsistency, repeated poor behavior usually reveal the real truth clearly. So, action always reveal more than words. Someone can say they are care about you, while their behavior show the complete opposite. And deep down, most people already knew when the energy was changed. The problem is many people ignore reality because they emotionally attached to potentials. They keep hoping the old version of that person will return. But sometimes expectations is healthier than chasing memories. Because people are not obligated to remain the same behavior. Neither are you. Growth changes people, experience changes people, pain changes people lastly. And emotionally mature individuals understand this reality. They stop facing connection. They not longer grow naturally. Intense. They protect their peace. They focus on yourself. They focus on your emotional balance, and they stop begging for attention for emotionally and our pupils. Because in the end, psychology teaches you something very powerful. The more disrespect you choose attentions, the less emotional valuable your attention becomes. But when you respect your own energy, maintain emotional balance, and stop forcing connections, people naturally will respect your presence more. It's a reality. Not because you manipulating them, because emotionally confidence changes your energy completely. And sometimes the powerful response is silence. You understand my trolls world because it's all about the human race. It's totally depend on the personal experience here. So I will show all the expenses, all the difference I will show. It's all the real life is my experience here. So if you like my videos, please follow, subscribe, and waiting for the next upcoming video like that. Thank you.